Okay, welcome. Today we're looking at grade 11 equations with fractions. Very important. A lot of people tend to struggle with this, and yet if they apply their basic skills on equations with fractions, it should be fine. So let's have a look quickly. Let's start with basic equations in grade 11. If you're looking at this one, really you cannot select your LCD, not once your denominators look like that. You need to make sure that your denominators are ready to make it easy for you to select the common expressions that will form your LCD, that is your lowest common denominator. So let's go. Looking at that, definitely we need to factorize that second fraction of 8 over a squared minus 9. Difference of two squares in the denominator, a minus 3 into a plus 3. Pretty easy, straightforward. The last fraction really is just a question of rearranging your terms. There's absolutely no reason here to do anything else except to just write it as a plus 3. Now, let's select our LCD. Remember, don't call it LCD for no reason. It's the lowest common denominator. That means of the denominators you've got must be common. But at the same time, where we find that there are denominators or there's part of a denominator that is not common, it becomes part of your LCD. Okay, so let's go. If you look at that, our LCD definitely is a minus 3 into a plus 3. Now, when we look again there, we realize that, oh, okay, to get or simplify the first fraction, we divide the LCD, which is a minus 3 into a plus 3, we divide it by the denominator of the fraction. Obviously here, the a minus 3 and the a minus 3 are going to cancel out during the division, and we'll be left with a plus 3, and that a plus 3 will then go on to multiply the numerator, which is 2 in this case. When we get to the second fraction, notice that the denominator itself is exactly identical to the LCD. So during division, we just get 1. And therefore, that 1 multiplies the numerator 8. When we go to the last fraction, again, notice that a plus 3 in the LCD is identical to the denominator of the fraction. And here, it means that a plus 3 would have cancelled out, leaving us with a minus 3 multiplying the a. And really, it's pretty easy. Once you've sorted out this major step, everything else should just go back to normality, getting a proper quadratic equation, and then you'll be able to solve. And of course, once you've multiplied out the numerator, you leave out the denominator, because now every fraction is written over the same denominator, a minus 3 into a plus 3. And in reality, only numerator is different, so we need to solve the numerator. And remember, I'm showing this step because I'm trying to illustrate where things are coming from, but you are perfectly allowed to just show the multiplied out version of your numerator immediately. You don't need to be showing us those steps, and you can actually get on with your solving of the equation. In this case, standard form, because it's a quadratic equation, ready to factorize, and once you factorize, you're easily getting to your answers of a is equal to 2 or a equals to -1. Easy. Okay. This one just slightly harder. Look at the question there again, look at the denominators. Definitely not ready for us to select a proper LCD. So let's fix that. So we factorize. The last fraction, really, we just need to rearrange the terms, x plus 2. But look at what happens in the first fraction. Proper factorization there. But the trick in the second fraction is this. We notice in our first fraction that we've got x minus 1, so we don't want 1 minus x. In order to select a good LCD that will have a common expression, we make that x minus 1. And when that happens, remember, it's through taking out a -1 from that expression. And it's very important to understand this. I never talk about switch arounds. I just have a problem with that, because then learners forget about the negative that comes out of that factorization. So there we have 1 minus x. So we factorize by taking out -1, and we're left with x minus 1. And that's what happens. It is that negative that then multiplies whatever sign was in front of your fraction. And that's why we ended up with a positive sign over there. Well, now we're ready for the LCD. Our LCD is definitely x plus 2 into x minus 1. In the first fraction, really, it's just -6, because the LCD and the denominator are exactly identical. But in the second fraction, that means x minus 1 would cancel out from the LCD, leaving out with x plus 2, and x plus 2 will multiply the numerator. And then same thing in the last fraction, the x plus 2 will cancel out in the LCD, leaving out with x minus 1, so x minus 1 multiplies the numerator. Once you've done this step, really, it's all about going down to solving your equation with ease. Create that quadratic equation, and then factorize accordingly. Remember, If it's not factorizable, you can always apply your quadratic formula and solve. X is equal to -3/2 or X is equal to 1. One other thing I must just mention, very important, especially with equations with fractions, is the restrictions that go with your fractions in algebraic fractions. If the denominator is 0, or if the answer we get would end up giving us a denominator that is 0, then that answer is invalid. It's no longer a valid solution in terms of the equation. In this case, exactly that happens. X equals to 1 would give us 0 if we were to substitute x as 1 in the equation because of this denominator of 1 minus x. And right there, we need to indicate that that is invalid by putting a line across, or you can write the words not valid. Okay. Here's another one. I'm not going to really solve this one all the way, but I just wanted to show something that is interesting and unique about selecting your LCD. Notice after our factorization that there's a whole lot of expressions that are common, but more than anything, there's a fraction that has exact similar expression appearing twice that is also common. And when we select our LCD, look at what our LCD looks like. And how did we get there? Well, easy. If you look, we normally pick one expression for any number of expressions that are common for each fraction. So we pick 1 for both x minus 3, and then we'll have x minus 3 appearing down there. And then we go again for x plus 5s that are common. There will be an x plus 5 in the LCD. But then notice what happens after that. We're left now with x minus 3 and the 2 that are not common anymore, okay, which then becomes important to understand. When that happens, anything that is not common becomes part of your LCD. That means that x minus 3 must come down and join the LCD, and that 2 as well must come down and join the LCD. After this, it's all about multiplying out, getting your equation and solving it, and it's pretty easy. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let you go and simplify things and go and solve the equation. Otherwise, it's a fairly straightforward thing once you understand the concept. Okay.